Hey, what is up? And welcome back to the the Entrepreneurial Relationship, where we talk about entrepreneurship, relationships, and how to deal with all the tasks that you have as a businessman and an entrepreneur, and also how to deal with relationships.
Right. That's right.
My name is Jakev.
And my name is Nichelle. I am a vocalist, live stage performer, creative director, and vocal coach.
Right. And I am a commercial photographer, videographer, and we are based in Toronto.
Yes. Awesome.
Big up to 6, And let's get right into our crisis situation for today.
What could it be?
Oh, what could it be? The anticipation is killing me. So today, our crisis situation is how to set boundaries in your business.
Right. That's a big topic. And I feel like that's one of the main things that we have to ensure that we have for ourselves. And, what do you think some of the boundaries, you would set for your business, or maybe some people would set for their business?
So we have some already written down. So the first one is knowing when to say no. And that's a big thing.
Yeah.
Like when you're in business, you're like, okay, you gotta work, you gotta push, you have to be ahead of your competition. And you feel like that means you have to say like yes all the time, right? Like you have to say yes to everything just to make sure that you're either making the money, right, or being in the rooms.
Right.
And what I've learned is that is simply not the case.
Yep.
That is simply not the case. In the beginning, it may seem fun. It'd be like, okay, yes, we're going and we're here and we're there. But it gets tiring after a while.
And why do you think knowing when to say no and why to say no is one of the things that we have to know when to do and just kind of pull out of pocket?
Well, honestly, it goes into something else that we have to say. But again, it's all about knowing what you want to do, right? Why you're doing this. And if you're an entrepreneur, I know for me as an entrepreneur, it's for freedom. It's for me to be able to do things, right? So it's not, I don't want to be having to say yes to everything. And I'm like, oh my God, like I can't get a day off. I can't chill. I can't, be with my partner.
Yeah.
So I think that's like one of the big things of knowing why to say no and also when to say no.
Right.
When it comes to like when to say no, it's like if you have like a workload and you're like always smacked, you're always having to do something, you have so many deadlines, you can say no. You can chill. You need to recoup.
Yeah, I think setting boundaries for yourself and for your clients so that they know that we aren't machines, so having a balance between what you're capable of doing and what you want to do is something that you have to, because if you know that you're only capable of doing 3 projects a week or even 3 projects a month, then you don't want to, take on more projects, and then you're bombarded, and then you have, deadlines that you can't meet. And then that's also, leaving a certain reputation on your business and things like that of that sort. So, knowing when to say no, so that you have a balance between your clients and yourself. I think that's really important, as you're saying.
So. All right. So yeah, going into the second thing, it is a balanced relationship with your client. So you as the entrepreneur, you as the provider, the service, having a balanced relationship with your client.
Nice.
And I know, like, again, coming from the Caribbean, everyone's like very friendly in my experience. So like, you might have a client and then, they get your personal number and then they get your like personal Instagram or your personal social media, and, they start talking to you, start talking to them. And, it sometimes it may go like into friendship territory, right? And we as entrepreneurs have to know how to really like
balance that,
and like go through that kind of landscape.
Yeah.
So what do you have to say on this like topic?
I think maintaining professionalism across the board is the best way to approach anything. And then if you feel comfortable with that individual and you feel like that's grounds to develop a relationship with that client, then feel free. A lot of times your clients are also friends or different things like that. So I think knowing when to turn it on and off is also something. So just being able to gauge how you want to approach things specifically for business. And then if, you decide to have friendships outside or whatever the case is, then that's also something. But in regards to working with your clients directly, I think having, using, emails and having set time hours between, when people are calling you or things like that. Like let's think of people who are probably in office or whatever the case is, you're not going to be in the office until 9-10 o'clock at night. Right. So I think having a work time for when you finish working is really important. And then it's also good for you because then now you can kind of put your mind out of the work mode and you can go into family time. You can spend time with your partner and your mind is not wrapped around business all the time where you're like, I have to answer this email or, I have to. So you ensure that between these time periods, I am dedicated to my work. I can do this, I can do that. And then after that, I know that I can't really converse with clients or unless it's an emergency and it's like, because sometimes things change and whatever the case is, but that's what I would say. So, yeah.
All right. Right. I like that. All right. So yeah, that's where I would say things, having a balance, having boundaries,
Yes.
With your client, having a good balance, that's really good to have. So going into the third thing, and I think this is for like entrepreneurs and business people who have a team, right? And it's know your role. So employer and employee, right? So, I've said a few things. What do you want to say on this?
Knowing your role. I think, again, maintaining that professionalism is key, knowing how to, work within a team. We learned about teamwork roles and who's going to kind of control the group or I don't want to say control, but who's going to kind of help manage or dictate certain roles or if this person is going to be in charge of this specific thing, then this person is going to be in charge of this thing. And micromanaging sometimes can happen. So I think just once you're conscious of your role in a space, that's maintaining your boundaries with your other employers or your
employees,
not your employees. I was going to say with your colleagues. That's the word I was looking for.
Yeah. So colleagues.
Yeah. So if you're working with other colleagues and you know that this is my role, and that's their role, let's say they're in a managerial position, then you know that there's certain things that you have to address in a certain professional manner. In other cases, if it's just a group team of you and your colleagues, then again, maintaining professionalism, knowing your role, how you want to represent yourself, how you want to represent the company or who you're working with. Those are all things that you want to kind of keep in mind. And then as the actual person who is employing, again, just knowing how to delegate a team, working, being open to feedback and things like that. Those are all great things that allow boundaries to be put in place, but also give people an opportunity to, speak to you in a way where it's like, it's not all, you
have to do this, it gives them the latitude to express themselves in whatever they want to do.
Right. Exactly. I think that's really important with roles, and working with a team. So,
because like, even for me, sometimes I get contracted out by other production companies and other teams and sometimes just other creators. So sometimes, I may know more about something than that person, or I have more experience than that person. But I understand my role in that this is the person, they are spearheading the team, right? And if they need my experience, they will ask on it. But I should never be, like, oh no, let's do it this way, let's do it that way, because I know, just because I know, right?
So I guess that's like that saying where it's like, if someone doesn't ask you for advice, don't really give it, that kind of thing. So I guess that kind of
but there are also ways that you can go about giving that advice. Definitely. Like if they're doing something and you're like, hey, you know what, like in my experience, like if this is what you're going for, then this would be a more effective way to do it.
Right.
And I say effective and I don't say a better way because, like it kind of sounds
better is subjective too.
Yeah, it's subjective.
Yeah.
So if you say more effective, then it's like, oh, it just helps it a little bit better.
Right.
So that's kind of the way when you like knowing your role, whatever team you're on, whoever you're working with, just know what you're there for.
Yeah.
And offer what's the word I'm looking for? Offer value, right? But never do it in a way where it's like, oh, you know more, or I'm doing this kind of thing.
Even for me, sometimes when I have to perform, knowing my role as well, like when you're singing with a collective of people, sometimes you have to know when to, I want to say, balance your position when you're on stage, rather than when you're performing by yourself. You have more, I guess, leeway to, work the stage and, engage with your audience. But I know sometimes we have to think about the band. We have to think about the other vocalists. Sometimes someone, something might happen and we have to, take on another position in that space. So again, thinking about roles in that manner, it's like, when to step up and when to kind of pull back a little bit just to balance out the space. So yeah.
Yeah, just a couple gems right there. Just a couple gems right there. And we're going into the fourth one, which is the final one here. And it is know your worth.
Huge.
This, I believe, is like the biggest one when it comes to what you're doing.
Yeah.
And especially as an entrepreneur, knowing your worth will help you in setting boundaries.
Completely. Yep.
Because there are a lot of people that will ask you to do something. And it's like, man, I can't.
But why does that happen? I feel like it's just like, is it because, you don't want to, or is it because you feel like it's outside of your, your range of work, or is it because you feel that you're beyond, or is it because, kind of elaborate on why you feel that way?
Honestly, it's because a lot of people don't understand the scope of what I do. And I'll speak on what I do.
Yeah, as a
photographer, videographer, a lot of people don't understand the scope of what I do, right? So it's not just about, let's make a video. Oh, the video is going to be 30 seconds. But it's about everything that encompasses this video.
Right.
From the pre-production to getting there, to setting up, right? To placing the cameras, to lighting, to audio, right?
Yep.
Even down to the background music. It gives a different feel
to
what it is you want to do.
Yeah.
Right? So all of these things, and they're like, oh yeah, my budget is $100, but they want, and I'm bruh. Yo.
Yeah. But you know what though? I feel like that's also kind of coming from a place of not knowing, right? So in my mind, when we kind of talk about this a lot, where it's like when I first was introduced to more of like the visual space, I didn't really know what goes into actually creating a great video.
Right.
And I think a lot of people don't realize what goes into it, because even lighting alone, that makes a complete difference. I know you talk heavily on lighting.
Yeah.
So, I didn't know and people will just say, oh yeah, well, my budget is this, not knowing that video production can run up to, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8K. Depending on what you want to do, you know what I mean? On the low end.
$10,000 on the low end, is what certain videos range on.
Yeah.
Right? Because I was talking to some other people, right? And we were discussing what I do. And they were like, oh yeah, I know the cameras is expensive and stuff like that. But I'm like, yo, it's sometimes it's not even about the camera. Right? The memory cards that I use are $100 alone.
Yeah.
So imagine having to buy 3 or 4 memory cards plus tax plus shipping, right? Certain lighting, just what the camera is on itself, the tripod right here, that costs money.
Yeah. So a lot of your equipment, and then in collaboration with everything else, it's like you're paying for, you're paying for quality. You're paying for, let's say, a renter's fee.
You're paying gear, you're paying renter's fee,
all these different,
and you're also paying for my skills. You're paying for what I can do.
Time, years of putting in work,
my subscriptions, my computer, and that's where pricing comes into it. And that's where knowing your worth really lies. Because I know that there are certain photographers or videographers out there who have more expensive gear than me, but they're charging less. Right? They bought the gear because maybe, again, some photographers have a 9-to-5. Some photographers, there are other things, other factors that may enable them to buy gear and have gear.
But even if that is the case, sometimes, you have to, again, it boils right back down to knowing your worth. And if you don't know how much, your worth is, and you underpay yourself, then, sometimes clients take advantage of that.
And and think of it not as just underpaying, but undervaluing yourself, right? That's a big thing. And that's why knowing your worth, it came last, but it's a big part of knowing how to set boundaries. Because at the end of the day, sometimes you may need the money, but do you really want to take all that time, take all the effort, right, to make something as a photographer, as a videographer, talking within my niche? You want to take all that time, all that effort, all that experience, doing all of that, and still not get paid for it, or not get paid what you believe you're worth, or what your worth is. Because there's a difference. You can get paid what you think you're worth, and then there is the worth of what you're doing. That's that's different.
We even watched a video of another videographer or photographer. I'm not sure if he was, but he was talking about, when he first started doing weddings, and he started at a certain price point. And it wasn't until he spoke with the client was when he said that, in regards to market, what's it called again?
The market value
of what you're doing. Was way less than what, she was like, oh, I was going to pay you 15. And then instantly he jacked up his price to 1,500 because he didn't know. So imagine if you don't do the research about where you're within your area, I know for in the aesthetics industry, for makeup artists, depending on where you are in the city, it will, your price range will change. And I also know for vocalists, depending on where you are, again, you're, if you're doing local bar gigs, you're not getting more than a certain amount. But if you know that you're niching into a specific market where your price range is, nothing less than $500 or nothing less than $1,000, then that is where you need to market, and that is according to your worth. And again, a lot of people will approach you and they don't know. And again, I feel like sometimes that's an opportunity for, learning and teaching and things like that. But again, you really have to know, because then sometimes you're selling yourself short.
Yeah.
And you don't really want
that's just that. Sometimes you are legitimately selling yourself short. Right. So is there anything else that you want to say on, setting boundaries?
I would say maybe just boundaries with myself. I would say, taking time to really, I guess, set the tone for what I want to do in my business, and then being intentional about it in every aspect. I think that's how you create your lines of what you're willing to do and what you're not willing to do. For example, I think if you know that your strong point or your strong area is not marketing, so all right, that's my space where I kind of cut off. I want to focus more of the frontline work. I'll hire somebody to do the marketing. I feel like that's a boundary that you create for yourself, so that you're not overexerting yourself. For an example, but just thinking about how I take care of myself. I know, taking care of my mentality, how I I'm losing my words today. I don't know what's going on.
So you're like your mental health, taking care of your mental health.
Being aware of my mental health, practicing self-care, the things that I want to do for me, those are boundaries that I create for myself at all times so that I can actually apply myself the best way possible, so that I'm not like overexerting myself and I feel so, anxiety.
You feel exhausted.
There we go. We feel exhausted. Yeah. So, yeah, like that's what I would say. So just creating boundaries with how I approach my work, how I approach my mental health, and also, again, like just reiterating how we deal with our relationships, knowing our worth when we're dealing with clients and new clients. Sometimes people are just, they're getting started in a certain industry and they don't know. And again, we want to give people the benefit of the doubt, because a lot of times it is coming from a place of ignorance. And, we just have to make sure that we know who we are, what we stand for. You're not doing anything just for the buck. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. A boundary within your business is knowing that you're not just doing it just for money.
Facts.
Because if you're just doing it for money, then just go get a job.
Facts.
Like, why go through all the heartache and the pain, right? Why go through all of that just to do it for the money, to have no reason behind it?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And some people might be like, yo, hey, chill. Like, chill.
Hey, but you know what? Like, again, you just have to know what's for you. Like, some people will do some things, like I'll do some things that he may not do. And, he approaches work differently than I would, So again, just knowing yourself. So
yeah. And if you like something, get started and maybe your why will come.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
But make sure that you actually have that.
Yeah.
You don't want to be 10 years into doing something and you're like, man, what am I doing here? Like, this makes no sense.
That definitely does happen though. So you have to reevaluate why you're doing what you're doing sometimes, and then once you know why, then, you keep going.
Yeah. Yeah.
Pick up yourself, babe.
I feel like that's a great point to end on.
Yeah. So too.
Know yourself, know your why, know your worth.
Know your boundaries.
Know your boundaries.
Yeah.
All right.
Definitely.
Thank you for being here on the ER. So check us out on our social media platforms. They will be linked in the description.
Hello.
Check us out on YouTube. Check us out everywhere.
Yeah.
All right. So like, share,
subscribe.
Yes. Send this to a friend.
Yes. Oh, and turn on your notification bells so that you know when we're going to drop, because we're going to be dropping a lot more videos, and not just on the ER, but you pointing at me? Not just
pointing at the notification bell right under you, right somewhere right there, down there.
Yeah, and also look up for new music, because we're gonna be dropping music as well. So like, stay tuned for some new things.
Like letting the cat out of the bag. But
like,
yeah,
I gotta tell them.
See y'all soon. All right. Thanks so much.
Peace.